When you look at all the world's religions, have you ever stopped to ask, what's the real difference? I'm not talking about the rituals or the traditions, but what's the fundamental thing that separates one from another? Well, today we're going to dig into theologian John Lennox's framework. He points to this one, single, radical idea that he argues sets Christianity completely apart from every other path out there. So, what really makes a belief system tick? Is it all about what you do? The good deeds, following the rules? Or is there something else going on entirely? The framework we're looking at today has a very pointed answer to that exact question. All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First up, we'll look at faith as evidence. Then we'll explore what's called the path of merit. After that, we'll see a radical reversal. We've got a great little cookbook analogy to help it all make sense, and we'll wrap it up with the core distinction. Okay, first things first, we have to talk about the word faith. Because to really get what Lennox is saying, we've got to start with his definition. And it's probably not what you're expecting. So you've got two totally different ways of looking at faith here. On one side, you have the popular idea, right? That faith is just believing in something when there's zero evidence, a blind leap. But on the other side, Lennox's view is that Christian faith is the complete opposite. It's not a leap in the dark. It's more like walking across a bridge you've inspected and tested. It's about trust, yeah? But a trust that's based on evidence. And this quote from the Gospel of John really nails it. Look at the wording. These are written that you might believe. The text itself is basically saying, hey, I'm the evidence. It's not just a command to believe blindly. It's an invitation. It's saying, here's the data, here are the accounts, investigate it for yourself so that you can come to a conclusion. So the big idea here is that, according to this framework, Christianity isn't asking for blind faith. It's presenting itself as a case, a rational forensic case that actually invites you to investigate. It's saying, look at the evidence, like the claims about the resurrection, and decide for yourself. It's a very different starting point. Okay, so now that we've got that idea of evidence-based faith on the table, let's move on to the next piece of the puzzle. We're going to look at what Lennox describes as the typical structure for most religions, something he calls the path of merit. And this journey, this wavy line, it probably sounds pretty familiar, right? You start somewhere, you go through life, with its ups and downs, basically trying to be a good person, hoping your good deeds pile up higher than your bad ones. And then, at the very end, there's some kind of final judgment where everything gets weighed. Only if the scales tip in your favor, then you're accepted. The bottom line in this model is that acceptance is the goal. It's the prize at the end of the race. It's what you're working for your whole life, always kind of hoping you've done enough. But you never really know for sure until it's all over. Okay, so keep that idea in your head, the idea of earning your acceptance, because this is where everything gets flipped upside down. The argument here is that Christianity doesn't just offer a slight variation on this model. It completely reverses the whole thing. So, just to be super clear, in most religious systems, acceptance comes at the end. It's the finish line. But in Christianity, acceptance comes at the beginning. That's the radical reversal. It's not the finish line you're running towards, it's the starting line you begin from. It's not something you earn, it's something you're given. This chart just breaks it down so clearly. You've got the path of merit on one side, it's based on your works, acceptance is at the end, and you're motivated to earn forgiveness. Then you have the path of grace. It's based on Christ's work, acceptance is at the beginning, and your motivation is totally different. You do things because you're already forgiven. See the switch? I know, this whole starting with acceptance thing can sound a little abstract, a little heady. So to make it super concrete, Lennox uses this brilliant little analogy. All right, just imagine this scene. A guy wants to propose to the love of his life. He shows up, but instead of a ring, he's holding a cookbook. And he gets down on one knee and says something like, "Here are the rules for making the perfect apple cake. If you follow these rules perfectly for the next, say, 40 years, then I'll think about accepting you." I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? No one would ever do that. What a terrible way to start a relationship. And that's the whole point of the story. We all just know, deep down, that you can't build a real, loving human relationship on a foundation of merit, of one person constantly having to prove they're worthy, right?
A good relationship isn't about one person cooking to gain acceptance. It's about cooking because you already have acceptance. The kind acts, the good deeds, they flow out of the relationship. They aren't a prerequisite for it. And that right there is the difference Lennox is pointing to. Working for favor versus working from favor.
All right, so let's tie this all together. At the end of the day, why does any of this matter? What's the big deal about the difference between a merit system and a grace system? Well, it all boils down to one word: grace. As Lennox presents it, grace is simply unmerited acceptance. It's a relationship that kicks off with the very thing, forgiveness, that other systems say you have to spend your entire life trying to earn. But why? Why is that even necessary? Well, the argument is that it's the only solution to a massive theological problem. How can a perfect God possibly have a real relationship with imperfect people? In a merit system, we could never measure up. So grace, in this framework, acts as the bridge that makes that relationship possible. And that leaves us with the one big question at the very heart of this framework. What really changes in your life, in your motivation, in everything, when a relationship isn't about trying to earn your way in, but is instead about living out the fact that you're already in? It's a total paradigm shift. And according to Lennox, it's the one distinction that changes absolutely everything.